Our children are not fertilizer. Protests against mobilization are growing in the Caucasus. The Caucasus region of Dagestan has been rocked by protests against mobilization in Russia. The Kremlin, following its usual practice, is actively involving national minorities from Russian regions in the war against Ukraine. During yesterday's spontaneous rally in the capital of Dagestan, protesters began to be detained. The protesters, many of them women, shouted "No war. And our children are not fertilizer." The rally in Makhachkala started relatively peacefully. Most of the time it was just verbal skirmishes. The women explained to the police that the Kremlin had started a war against Kiev, and not vice versa. The occupiers are always violators of the Muslim faith, in which words the women tried to explain their protest to the police. This region of the Russian Federation is one of the leaders in the number of casualties in the war against Ukraine. In Dagestan they are beginning to understand the situation in which they are caught. This indicates a real crisis or its escalation in Russia. Because the mobilization, as it was assumed in the Kremlin, was not supposed to be accompanied by protests, which quite quickly turn into a confrontation of force. The regions with the most deaths are the most resisted. They already have a rejection of the policy implemented by the Kremlin. This can be seen as the beginning of a wave of such protests in different regions of Russia. For us, it is important that it is the preservation of the ethnic representatives of the group that comes to the fore. Each group is trying to save its own people. This is a good basis for the formation of a protest field on various grounds, including ethnic characteristics. It is noteworthy that among those present at the rallies are quite a few women. They bravely throw themselves at the security forces. If we draw parallels with the protests in Iran, we can see a trend of protests of a new level, when men are silent, and women take the stage.